The journey to becoming a Divine Nine member can be very strenuous, grueling, and habitual. However, when some received their letters, they realized it was nothing more than a humiliation ritual. Let's discuss. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Beasley here. I hope you all are staying cool, calm, and collected out there. So I wanted to go ahead and put my 2 cents in on this whole entire situation, this tragic situation involving Caleb Wilson. If you guys don't know who Caleb Wilson is, he is a very young 20-year-old mechanical engineering student down at Southern University down in Louisiana. Due to some very tragic circumstances, Caleb Wilson ended up being unalived, and this actually happened back in February. On February 21st, he was pronounced dead, and this happened due to him being online pledging to be a part of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, aka the Q Dogs. During one of the processes that happened during his time online, it happened at a off-campus warehouse that was owned by an older member of Omega Psi Phi, and he allegedly was punched in the gut a little too hard. After he didn't get up after that gut punch, they rushed him to the hospital, and they lied to the people at the hospital saying that he collapsed while playing basketball. After he was pronounced dead that night, later on the authorities got involved, and so far one person has turned themselves in. It was like a 23-year-old man. He basically came in and told the police what really happened and what caused Caleb Wilson to be unalived. And then also on campus, the whole entire initiation process to get into a fraternity or sorority was completely seized for the rest of the year.
Suspects arrested in the alleged hazing death of Caleb Wilson. Police say each of the suspects punched Omega Psi Phi pledges that night nearly 2 weeks ago, but the warrants suggest only Caleb McRae delivered the fatal blow.
Arrest warrants reveal the role each played. Here is Maddie Kurth now with what investigators are saying the other 2 men did as they now face a felony.
John, this is exclusive video here of 28-year-old Isaiah Smith turning himself into Baton Rouge police this morning. Investigators say he held the title Dean of Pledges within the fraternity and that he punched at least one person that night. His bond was set at $25,000. He and 25-year-old Kyle Thurman now face criminal hazing charges, which were upgraded to a felony in Louisiana 7 years ago. They each face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. Now, police say Wilson and 8 other pledges were in a warehouse leased to Smith's father. Thurman is accused of punching one half of the pledges, while 23-year-old Caleb McRae is accused of punching the other half, including Caleb Wilson. An arrest warrant says McRae delivered 4 blows to Wilson's chest before he collapsed to the ground unconscious. It sees that additional manslaughter charge now punishable by up to 40 years in prison. Investigators say the pledges were then ushered into another room while frat leadership tended to Wilson, changing his clothes before loading him up into Smith's car and dropping him off at a hospital and leaving before the police arrived. A preliminary autopsy found a small bruise on the right side of Wilson's chest. The coroner says his body was released to a funeral home last week, but that official cause and manner of his death is still pending.
Now, you guys, this situation spoke to me because I went through the same thing that Caleb Wilson went through way back in the day when I was in college. I can't believe I said back in the day. But this situation speaks to a bigger level. Like, outside of our need for, like, let's say food or sex, our biggest need is community and the ability to belong, fit in, and succeed. And the thing about college, when you get to college, you get humbled. Even the most popular kid gets to college and gets humbled because they're not the most standout person on that college campus. So a lot of people have a hard time finding their groove in college and where they belong. And in order to fit in on campus or find a sense of community or use it as their own personality, a lot of people will tend to join and pledge a fraternity or sorority. Now, in this video, every single sorority and fraternity all has their processes to getting in, but I'm mainly going to focus on the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities, especially because I went to an HBCU, shout out to PV, so I'm going to talk about what was in my vicinity, and it was all the historically black sororities and fraternities. Now, full disclaimer, things are going to get a little touchy, but I will say I do have nothing but respect for the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities. My favorites are the AKAs, a ski to you too. Now, I'm not going to list all of the fraternities and sororities sororities and the Divine Nine, just know the Divine Nine is all of the black fraternities and sororities. Now, before this video gets a little dark and negative, I am going to talk about the positives behind the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities. Like I said earlier, they do offer a sense of community. Let's say if you're a person that didn't have any siblings or came from like a single parent household, you get in there and then you legit have like brothers or sisters, or you have people that you can look up to, like father figures or mother figures to look up to. They all offer leadership and networking opportunities, especially like the older members. They can definitely give you a leg up in life if you play your cards right. They offer growth and mentorship opportunities. Like you can literally come into these fraternities and sororities and get molded into a higher version of yourself, basically. Like step into somebody that is a better version of yourself, and that gives you the qualities to mentor people that are younger than you, like the youth and the at-risk youth, to be a better version of themselves. And lastly, I think I already said this, but it literally can get you in doors that would be a lot harder to get in if you didn't have your letters or your colors. But speaking of letters and colors, you guys, when it comes to Divine Nine fraternities and sororities, we gotta keep it all the way real. It is set up literally like a gang. You wear the colors like a gang, you have secret meetings like a gang, you have your letters like a gang, you all have like a like mindset and mission like a gang. Real talk, gang culture and also secret society culture, because once you get into the Greek side of things, you're basically in a secret society. Like that is a big part of American culture. Gangs and secret societies, that is the fabric of American culture. And the reason why it's set up like a gang is because in order to get into a gang, you have to get beat in or sexed in. And the way to get into a fraternity or sorority is either by paper, which you either take like a series of tests and you have to basically know all the knowledge of that fraternity or sorority in order to get in, or you go the process route, which is a big humiliation ritual. And when it comes to the process to get into a Divine Nine fraternity or sorority, it could be one, if not all three of these different categories. The first one is the process can be very subtle, such as you like having to like not wear that whole entire fraternity or sorority's colors, or you have to wear like a certain thing or a certain day, or if somebody steps to you from that fraternity or sorority, you have to recite certain lines or certain history about the organization in front of them. Number two, it could be like a legit humiliation ritual. Like, let's say you all meet up one night and you have to recite history while getting like egg thrown in your hair or food thrown at you, or let's say eating a donut off a dick, if you get my drift. Or number three, you can legit just get your ass beat. So one thing you guys like to see is when I shift the focus back to me, Beasley. So you guys, one thing that I can relate about Caleb Wilson's story is the fact that I went through a process. Now, I am not a Divine Nine member. I actually was in the process of joining an on-campus organization. Within that on-campus organization, you could do that and also pledge Divine Nine, if not around the same time. So you could literally go through two processes if you want. But a lot of the people in that organization were already like people that crossed over into Divine Nine, so the whole entire initiation process was set up like a Divine Nine. Now me, the main thing I always struggled with was fitting in and feeling like I didn't belong, so I wanted to go ahead and be more involved in campus. But one thing I learned is the more I tried to be involved in campus, the more I got my ass burned. So I joined this organization to find a sense of community and also for networking opportunities, especially with the fact that I wanted to have an easier time finding a job after college. I went through the process. The process, from what I remember, was about 6 weeks. Don't quote me on that, but it was a long time. It was a long, grueling process. And baby, when I tell you I got my ass beat, in the words of High Priestess K. Michelle, those men beat my ass.
That man beat my ass, and I had to deal with that.
It was a co-ed organization, so the men got their ass beat and the women kind of went through the humiliation ritual process of getting egg and also like food thrown in their hair. Y'all, I got punched and kicked in the stomach. I also got paddled. I didn't mind the paddle. But y'all, I went through physical, verbal, and emotional abuse in order to cross over into this organization. But y'all, after that process, in order to cross over, we went through one final process night, which was called Hell Night. Hell Night was definitely Hell Night. It was basically a night of us getting our ass beat repeatedly. Like, that's literally what it was. And then bam, we crossed over and we got our letters and then we got our line name. My line name was Johnny Bravo. But y'all, when I got my letters, I was a little disappointed. And I was thinking like, I went through all this for this. Yo, I immediately had nothing but regret because I just felt in my heart and in my stomach that like this was not worth it at all. Especially with the fact that I didn't feel like a sense of community at all. Like I still felt like I didn't fit in with anybody, and then on top of it, our line barely got along with each other. So it was just like, was it really worth it? But yeah, the next year within this organization, I was just completely checked out. I didn't give a shit. But at one point towards like the spring semester, it was our time to bring in a new crop of people into the organization. And y'all, this is when things just went from sugar to shit, because at first they were going to be straight paper. Like, you know, you just take all the tests in order to get into the organization. But they saw what we went through last year, and then on campus, people got word that we were a real line. Like, we were like the one line on campus at that time that went through a process, and people heard about it. Like, we had a whole newspaper, and they said like, oh, yo, this organization just crossed over a new line, and I heard they're real. So we got listed as like quote unquote real on campus. But one thing about keeping it real, it can go the fuck wrong. So that line saw that we went through a process, and they were like, no, we're strong, we're hard, we want to go through a process too. Y'all, we put that line through a process, and they processed the organization's ass. So when it came time to have our own Hell Night in order to bring that line in, something happened where, like, Caleb Wilson, one of the guys who was actually the president of that line, got punched a little too hard. It just so happened that he was dating this girl that was like an older big sister on a previous line. Like, she had been in the organization for about like 3 years, and her boyfriend was the line president that got punched a little too hard. So what happened, you guys? A few weeks after that process, they went to the police, and then it started a whole entire investigation. But y'all, I try not to think too much of it, especially because I don't recall putting my hands on anybody, so I didn't think anything was gonna happen and it was gonna blow over. But baby, they summoned all of us into PV court. Like, I didn't even know that our campus had a courtroom, y'all, but I found out that day. Y'all, majority of the organization that was still going to school at that time, all of us, I think it was about like 30 or 40 of us, we all got in that courtroom and everybody just started snitching on each other. Like, nobody was able to hold water, nobody was sticking together. It was like this person did this person did that. Like, everybody was snitched on. Now, one thing that pissed me off was some people that were mainly a part of the process ended up walking away scot-free. But baby, the higher ups literally threatened your boy's degree. Baby, imagine being a senior about to graduate. Like, legit, I am like a week away from graduation, and they threatened to take my whole entire degree away. Now, what happened was unfair because, like I said, a lot of people that were more involved ended up walking away scot-free, and certain people like me ended up getting their degree threatened, and I ended up like really like begging them, like please don't take my degree away. And what happened was I ended up having to graduate like the next year, and a lot of people had to graduate within the next 2 years because of this situation. And then on top of that, you guys, the whole organization was taken off campus, just taken completely off campus. And my thing is, a lot of those higher ups knew good and damn well that those fraternities and sororities were going through the same process we were. But the thing that happened was they didn't get caught like we did. Now, you guys, I was definitely distraught. But looking back on it and seeing this whole entire situation play out with Caleb Wilson, it made me realize that, you know what? Maybe that boy had the right to go to the police, because what if he could have ended up dying? Like, he had the right to go to the hospital, and he had the right to file, I guess, a police report on whoever hit him like the hardest. But the thing is, everybody does it. All these fraternities and sororities do it. And the thing is with hazing, you guys, like, this didn't start with fraternities and sororities. Like, where did this officially start? Because my little tin hat is tingling with the fact that when it comes to hazing and getting initiated, that all is a ritual to get into a secret society. Now, you know, we always talk about the Illuminati and secret societies in Hollywood, but it's like, what did they have to do to get into those secret societies? Like I said, these rituals didn't just start with us. They didn't just start with Divine Nine fraternities and sororities and fraternities and sororities in general. This started way back in the day. And it's sad to say, but hazing is a tradition. It is a tradition, and it is a way to initiate somebody into a quote-unquote family. But the thing with hazing is, like, things may look good, like, oh yes, I could do this, like, this ain't gonna be no biggie. But it ends up being a biggie later, because you look back and realize how young and naive you were. And a lot of people actually even develop PTSD from the situation. Like, for example, there's even like, I think there was a trend about a year ago where there was a lot of people that were like denouncing their Greek letters. But overall, y'all, the moral of the story is, if you don't fit in, don't insist that you do. You were meant to be unique, and you were meant to be you. Like, if you guys are in college right now, or have like younger siblings or family members in college, sit them down and tell them not to do no dumb shit like hazing to get into an organization, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Like, even with like older people that get into these organizations, they don't put up with that bullshit. They don't go through that hazing shit. They do a grad chapter and they're straight paper. And the reason why they're straight paper is because they want to keep their paper. Like, they want to stay in the good graces of the profession that they're in. So, when it comes to hazing, you guys, it ain't worth it. It'll never be worth it. Now, granted, a lot of people end up becoming a better person due to hazing, because it's like a mental thing. And a lot of people take well to abuse, I guess. But for the most part, it's a bunch of bullshit. It's low-key demonic and barbaric when you really think about it. But overall, you guys, that was my learning experience. I learned to just be me and be unique, and not try to fit in with people, and not go through great lengths to fit in. But overall, you guys, that was my TED Talk. Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of y'all are probably in a Greek fraternity or sorority. Like, do you guys disagree with me, or do you guys somewhat agree with me? I'm pretty sure we could find some common ground. But let me know what you guys, I mean, a lot of y'all aren't gonna spill the tea on your process and how you got into the organization, but if you can, please spill the tea. But yeah, y'all, those are my views. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna come back at you guys with some more content.